Let's change gears now and shift focus to the World Economic Forum underway in Davos, Switzerland. Global business leaders and politicians will begin meeting there tomorrow. President Jacob Zuma heads a large South African contingent. It will be a chance for the president and other business leaders to get a sense of whether Marikana and economic policy uncertainty has tainted South Africa's image abroad. eNCA's Eleni Giokos is in Davos. We go live to her now. Eleni, good evening. Just how much has what's been happening in South Africa come up where you are?
Well, you know, Iman, a very good evening to you. And what has been really interesting is that Africa is definitely on the global agenda. And it's on the global agenda because it is still viewed as the last economic frontier, a place where growth is going to occur. The question is, where does South Africa stand in all of this? And are we still the powerhouse of the African continent? Remember, 2,500 delegates are here at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and they're going to be asking a lot of questions as to where South Africa is going, whether the labor unrest is going to create more drama going forward, and whether the policy scenario is starting to look better than what it did pre-Mangaung. Those are some of the questions that are being put on the table. Remember, the World Economic Forum really kicks off tomorrow. So that is definitely going to be telling in terms of what we can expect. Resilient dynamism is this year's theme, and perhaps it's not very optimistic, but we have the World Economic Forum's chief economist, Jennifer Blanke, joining us now. She's going to give us a bit of insight into this. Jennifer, very good evening to you. Resilient dynamism, how does that sort of play a role in the African and South African context?
Well, when you think about resilient dynamism, really what we mean is the fact that if you look at today's complex environment globally, really external shocks have become the norm. Whether they're from technology, from financial markets, from environmental disasters, or what have you. And so what that means is that individuals, companies, governments really need to be very aware of the shocks and the risks that are on the horizon, and be very dynamic and adaptable in order to deal with those as they come along. In other words, what we're seeing is that it's no longer a question of how little we know about what's hitting us on the horizon, really how well prepared we are for it.
Let's take a look at South Africa as a whole. And the Global Competitiveness Report that's put together by the World Economic Forum shows that South Africa is failing dismally when it comes to labor efficiency. We're very rigid with regards to wages. One doesn't really need to go on when you see what's happening with the farm workers' strike. What is your thoughts with regards to South Africa right now? Can we overcome these problems?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that South Africa is still not only the economic powerhouse, but the competitive powerhouse that we'd say. It's a very productive economy. Why? Actually, South Africa does well in a lot of the complex areas, still very innovative, very well-functioning businesses for the most part in many ways. But on the other hand, as you say, South Africa has a number of areas, particularly the more basic things, things like health, like education, like labor markets, even in the cooperation between labor and companies in the functioning of the labor market. And all of these things are very worrisome. However, I think that they're well understood, and if they are addressed in earnest, then South Africa has every reason to think it has a very prosperous future.
Do you think this will be our downfall when we see the violent outbreaks when it comes to labor unrest in the country?
I would rather say that hopefully it's a wake-up call. I mean, this is serious, and I think that everybody recognizes that. And so I do hope that because of this, actions will be taken that will actually make the labor markets more flexible and actually prepare the workforce to really effectively work and allow South Africa to really move up to the next level.
We know that President Jacob Zuma has come with a very strong mandate to, push the infrastructure story in Africa and in South Africa. Do you think that he's going to get it right?
Well, I think that for the World Economic Forum, infrastructure is a major issue, and in Africa, it's a major issue for us. In fact, we have just launched a huge infrastructure project where we're looking at making sure that we get the right kinds of investment into the right kinds of infrastructure, not just in South Africa, but throughout Africa. We know it's about linking up African countries. In fact, this is the topic of the Africa Competitiveness Report that we will be launching in Cape Town at our big Africa meeting in May. And we really do think that, given the right kinds of changes, given the right kinds of policies, there's every reason to think that this will be successful.
What's fascinating is at this event, at this forum, a bigger African delegation seems to be arriving every year. It's the hot topic.
Yeah.
What is your sense on this? How much bigger is Africa going to become?
I think it's really exciting because I have to say I've been covering Africa for quite some time from the perspective of Europe, from the perspective of North America, for example. And it used to be a lot more Africa's interest in the abroad. And now we're seeing a great interest in Africa from not just from advanced economies, economies, but from China, from Latin America. And I think that there is, as you said at the beginning, this feeling that Africa is this great frontier and that things are changing. Things are really improving.
Fantastic, Jennifer. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. Sitting out in the cold with us, Jennifer Blanke, the Chief Economist at the World Economic Forum. And there you have it. It seems that South Africa is getting it right on the more complex matters, but on simple things like labor and education, we're getting it wrong.